Peace, people. You're tuned in to the Black Commission Sharing Space podcast. Today we have Jamil Davis, Black Voters Matter. Jamil, tell us a little bit about yourself.
Well, originally from Atlanta, I now reside in Pensacola, Florida. I have the honor and the pleasure of being the Florida State Coordinator for Black Voters Matter. We're an organization that organizes in 12 states across the country. And our basis, honestly, is really to just build black political power across the states that we organize in the country. Just doing this good work, and I know it sounds really cliche, but doing this good work and spreading some good trouble around the country. And I've been with Black Voters Matter now going on a year and some change. It's been one of the greatest joys to do because I get to do what it is that I feel like I've been purposed to do, which is just to help serve the people,
Mhm.
help serve Black people, and to uplift the culture in any way that I can.
Yeah, it sounds like some fulfilling work. Tell me exactly what you do for the Voters Matter Fund.
So as the Florida State coordinator, I basically help the organizations that we partner with across the state. So one of the things that we do as Black Voters Matter is we find organizations, we find grassroots organizations that's already doing the work on the ground and any type of resources that they need, any type of trainings. Um, if y'all want us to come to y'all events and post up with the Black Voters Matter shirts, if y'all want the blackest bus in America to roll through to any of the events, we coordinate to make those things happen. And we sit with organizations and help them to plan out campaigns or events or initiatives that they're trying to do in their local area. Um, I have the honor and the pleasure of working alongside um, working alongside the organization that is doing this very podcast, the Black Commission. Black Commission is an awesome organization out of Jacksonville that we do some great work with. And it's an honor and a privilege for me to be able to be the state coordinator during a um, very awesome time period that Black Commission is doing some very awesome work within the city of Jacksonville. So, yeah,
Yeah, we really appreciate you taking the time out to, pour into us, pour into the people, to us.
absolutely.
Today, what do you think the most important work to be done in the Black community is?
That's the like literally and no, literally no cap. And I ain't saying this just because we on this podcast. That's an awesome question. That's an incredibly awesome question. Um, I think I think one of the most important pieces of work that we can do within the Black community is to truly understand what relational organizing is, because
Mhm.
I feel like a lot of times so many organizations as of late have been very transactional. It's been so much of a thing of if you scratch my back, I scratch yours.
Mhm.
Hey, I'll do this for you, but you got to do this, you know. And I feel that we should get back to true grassroots relational organizing, um,
Mhm.
seeking to do the work within our communities
Mhm.
without anything really, without seeking anything being given back to us. I go into these communities and do the work. Um, I give you a prime example. This past weekend, um, I rented a vehicle. I literally drove from Pensacola, Florida, to
Mhm.
Gainesville, Florida, to be a part of a statewide mobilization. Um, shout out to Greg and Lauren from the Black Commission. Shout out to Mr. Ben Frazier from Northside Coalition. Shout out to Nubian from Dignity Power and Florida Rising. They were there representing Jacksonville Heavy, um,
Mm,
but we were doing a statewide mobilization around a young woman who didn't realize that she had a warrant. She didn't know she had a warrant, and so because she, she had an outstanding warrant, it was a violation of her probation, and she was detained in Alachua County Jail. She was pregnant, got into the got into the cell, and she started having the baby. And while she was locked up, letting the officers know, I'm having this baby. It's a problem. Da da da. Da. And she had the baby, and the baby died in the jail.
mm,
We've already passed a piece of legislation in the state of Florida, thanks to some of the organizations that I just mentioned. We passed a piece of legislation in the state of Florida, I believe in 2019, 2020, known as the Tammy Jackson Act. And the Tammy Jackson Act is a piece of legislation that was supposed to prevent the very thing that occurred from happening. And so um, we went to Gainesville, had a statewide mobilization. Alachua County sheriffs would not allow us on the grounds of the Alachua County jail. And so the street that the jail sits on is one of the busiest streets in Gainesville, Florida.
mm,
Blocked the street,
mm,
completely blocked the street, took the street over. Whose streets? Our streets. Um, took the street over and took it over to the point where Gainesville Police Department got to the area and they blocked off the other ends of the
for
street.
you guys. So isn't there was a bill that was just passed in regards to protesting and things of that nature? Was it HB1? Am I
Yeah.
correct?
You are
So
absolutely
it sounds like even though they made a law, they essentially broke it in order to in lieu of this situation in particular.
hmm So
Why do you think they did that?
so HB1. Quick overview of HB1. HB1 pretty much enhances penalties on already existing laws that's already on the books when it comes to protest and direct action. Um, Many counties across this state and many cities across this state, their law enforcement agencies have already expressed displeasure about HB1.
Hmm.
Um, we, we don't have enough officers
Hmm.
to go arrest people if you go over the number of people that's supposed to be at the protest. That
Hmm.
if you block a street or anything happens, it becomes aggravated rioting and you get locked up for 15 years. If we go over that number of people, we don't have that many. We don't have that many officers in our cities and our counties to arrest these people. We don't have enough space to detain these people in our in our jail cells if we got to detain them in county jail facilities
Hmm.
until their first appearance. Like we don't have enough room, and so a
Hmm.
lot of these counties have already voiced displeasure about it. They voiced displeasure about it as we were in legislative session this year around the bill.
Hmm.
So um, I feel like, if I'm not mistaken, I feel like Gainesville, Florida was one of the cities that voiced a bit of displeasure around it. And so their whole thing is just like, hey, so as long as y'all really don't go to the extreme,
Hmm.
we don't really care. Like,
Right.
I I literally heard one of the officers say that to one of the organizers of the protest. As long as y'all don't go to the
Hmm.
extreme, like we cool. Matter of fact, are y'all gonna do another one? Because if y'all gonna do another one, we would like some heads up, you know,
Right.
around that. The Alachua County sheriffs that was actually um, the Alachua County sheriffs that were actually standing at the entrance of Alachua County Jail, they were shook. They was like, "Yo, like we don't know what we supposed to do," because on the one hand, this is we have this thing HB1, but on the other hand, if we lock all these people up for simply protesting about this woman whose baby died in our jail cell with the media out here, it's cameras out here, it's news cameras out here. So if we
Right.
lock these people up, how that's gonna make us look on the news? So like you those are things that I don't think those are things that Governor DeSantis was thinking about when he introduced this bill last year at the height of Black Lives Matter protests that were going on across the state and across the country in the summertime. I don't think that was something that he was thinking about. I think he was just thinking about like, hey, so we got to get these black people off of the streets any way that we possibly can. And I got to have another bill that I can pass as another thing that I can say that I did as governor when I decide I want to run for president in 2024. I feel like that's the thing. I did think feel like that's mainly the things that people be thinking about when they come up with this ridiculous piece of legislation.
And it gets kind of crazy because like it's the paperwork is there, the idea of enforcement is there, but the education and the resources aren't there. So that's why we're here
Mm-hmm.
within all of these situations that we're in right now. Because a lot of times, you know, the extent, the the understanding of the situations, it's not there. So we have all these problematic situations to where there is pushback, there is rage, and there's a lot of things that are, I can't say that they're unwarranted, but if things were well thought out from the gate, we wouldn't be here.
Right, absolutely. Um, and I feel like a lot of times that's what we're faced with, even in the situations with law enforcement itself. You know, like I think law enforcement, the majority of the time that they show up. Okay, so let's be clear. Anytime that law enforcement show up, it's not to prevent crime. It's never to prevent crime. By the time you call the police for anything, the alleged the alleged crime has already been done,
Mhm,
or we are in the process of the alleged crime happening.
mhm,
And so when they get there, their only thing is to neutralize whatever situation it is that's going on. It's not to prevent anything worse from happening. It's literally to just neutralize whatever situation it is that's going on. Um, I feel like a lot of I feel like a lot of things that happened when we're dealing with unarmed shootings of black people or state sanctioned violence of black people in this country, I feel like a lot of that can be easily prevented by utilizing other agencies, um, such as therapists. Like it, crime could easily go down if crime could easily go down if black people literally had somebody on a steady, consistent basis to talk to get their feelings and emotions out
mhm,
that could actually help them work on directing that anger or directing that PTSD. Because every black person in America, whether they want to admit it or not, or whether they want to tell you or not, every black person in America has some form of PTSD because we black.
yeah,
And so to work out that angst or that anger around that PTSD, if you have somebody like trained to do that, I think a lot of this intra community crime and intra community violence that occurs, because I hate like that's another thing. I hate the words black on black crime. Like that's the most ridiculous racist trope that's ever been created in modern United States history. Black on black crime, knowing that white people commit the same styles of crimes against white people. But we don't ever hear about that because the white establishment owns the media.
Mhm.
And that's not a good piece behind their media narrative. A good piece behind their media narrative is direct all the attention on the black people because historically we've been making them out to be criminals and we've been making them out to be animals and thugs anyway. Let's keep the tradition going. Let's keep the party going and ignore ignore the real stuff that's going on over here on the side.
Right.
So so yeah,
Yeah,
I
it's
I
like
just
that.
yeah, I just think a lot of things could um I just think a lot of the solutions to establishing the direction of going into liberation within the black community can just simply be established if we understand and recognize that there are other agencies and there are other agencies and other resources that we can use instead of just picking up the phone and calling the police all the time.
Yeah.
So,
If those different agencies that you speak of, uh, while we know that they will be the most beneficial things for the human race, period, right?
mm-hmm.
If they were in place, the machine would not have anything to feed off of. Now, since we're talking about, we touched on bills a little bit. Tell
Mm-hmm.
me a little bit more about some of the bills that are coming down the pipe that are detrimental to black people.
So we've already discussed one that's already been made into law, HB1. We called it the DeSantis anti-protest bill. It's already a law in this state. That bill can be a detriment if used in the context that it was originally written in, um, because of the fact that 20 or more people at a protest, something pop off at the protest, street is blocked at a protest, somebody decides they want to break something, even if it's not somebody that was involved in the protest, because you know how the government is. They like to send provocateurs and agents up in there to do some other stuff. Um, that can get you 15 years in prison.
Mm-hmm.
15 years. Destroying a monument or historic symbol can can be a second degree felony and that can get you 15 years.
Mm-hmm.
Um, if anybody feels that their life is threatened during a protest, that can get you 10 years. And
Just by feeling threatened?
just by feeling threatened, they call that intimidation. Yeah, like they call that intimidation. That's a third degree felony.
That's,
Intimidation during a riot.
I feel some type of way about that one. Now you just taught me something on that one. Like for a state that's so vocal on being able to retain your rights, your voice, and all of that, all of those things. I mean, I can see if it was one thing about putting people in harm, like actually physically harming somebody, but for somebody to feel a certain type of way,
Like
that is
like
a reach.
like we could literally be marching during the protests and we could be chanting while we're marching. And if there's a person who feels intimidated by us simply chanting, and it can be proven in a court of law that they were intimidated, that's 10. That's 5 to 10.
Crazy.
For
That's ludicrous.
intimidation during a riot. Um, oh, and then the other thing is that if you are blocking a street and someone decides to drive through while you're blocking the street, if they can prove in a court of law that their life was threatened by you blocking the street and they had to drive through to defend themselves, you can't sue them in a civil suit. That's one deal. Then of course you have SB 90, which is what we've been calling the Florida voter suppression bill, which basically if you want to vote by mail, because see this is what so this is what happened. 2020, um, 2020, nobody wanted to go outside during COVID, even to vote. So a lot of people decided that they were going to register to vote by mail for last year's election. Vote by mail went off without a hitch. Vote the governor of Florida even said it himself. This was one of the safest and most flawless elections that we have ever had in the state of Florida in the modern era. It's straight from the governor's mouth. And so he decided that we needed this bill to ensure that we continue to have safe and flawless elections. Not, oh, we're adults, so we'll continue to make sure that these are safe and flawless elections. No, y'all need a bill. So, in order to vote by mail now, if you haven't registered to vote by mail already in the state of Florida, because some people who have already registered are grandfathered in. But if you're a new person that's going to start registering to vote by mail, um, on the vote by mail application, you either have to give your driver's license number or the last four digits of your social security card. Why is that such why is that such a thing that has us in an uproar? Because I've already given you that info on my voter registration form. Why do I need to give you that info again to simply vote by mail?
That is definitely one of those things where it seems like they're trying to find loopholes in order to scrape and sweep that little bit more, in the favor of left or right.
Exactly. Another thing is that so before, when you registered to vote by mail, you would only have to register to vote by mail one time, and that covers the whole 4 years. So midterms, and then the next presidential election, midterms, next presidential election. It covered that cycle. Now, when you register to vote by mail, you have to register to vote by mail every election cycle. So, so if this was law last year, I would have to register to vote by mail for last year's presidential election. Then I would have to turn around and register to vote by mail again next year for the midterms and the governor's election. And then I would have to register to vote by mail again in 2024 for the next presidential election. It don't cover the whole spectrum. So now for people who have already registered to vote
Mhm.
by mail before, you ain't sending them no information out to let them know you now gotta register every election cycle. So now what happens is people forget. They think they finna get a vote by mail ballot. They not getting one. They trying to figure out where they vote by mail ballot is at. And now either you gotta go to the polls and vote, or you just flat out not voting.
I must not understand the meaning behind help, because you said this thing was supposed to help with voting, but and in fact, it seems to complicate it that much more.
hmm So another piece of this bill is so of course we have a lot of senior citizens, retired residents within the state of Florida. People like to come down and retire in this state, and so a lot of us don't have immediate family that lives in the state. And so some of these people who decided that they was gonna vote by mail, um, a lot of people didn't trust the post office. They didn't trust the United States Postal Service last year because mail was getting lost, mail was getting delivered 2 to 3 weeks late, and that was being done on purpose because a lot of people was deciding to use vote by mail for the election. So Organizations such as Black Commission, organizations such as the NAACP, Black Voters Matter, these type of organizations, we were going to people's houses and we were taking their vote by mail ballots, and we were driving to supervisor of elections office, the nearest drop box, what have you, to drop these ballots off, because some of these people can't get around. They don't have
Hmm.
vehicles, they have disabilities, what have you. So, the governor was made aware of that, and so one of the pieces in this bill, SB 90, is unless that person is your immediate family, and you have to prove that that person is your immediate family, that person cannot take that ballot for you. You have to take it yourself, and they have to be your immediate family. Now, I just stated to you that there's a lot of older senior citizen residents who don't have immediate family in the
Right.
state.
Right.
And if they do, sometimes they don't live in the same city that they live in.
Yeah. If at
And,
all.
and so now it presents a problem for those people, because now it's either put it in that mailbox and risk it um, not getting to the supervisor of elections office on time, figure out a way to go to the supervisor of elections office and drop that ballot in yourself, or take your tail down to the polls and stand in line and vote.
Wow.
Another piece that was added onto the bill is for people who are actually in line while voting. If you are within 150 feet of a voting precinct and you are giving water, food, snacks, or any type of voting assistance, and you are not an employee of the supervisor of elections or a volunteer at the supervisor of elections, you can be arrested for influencing somebody's vote. So you, Black Commission, so you,
Right. Right.
member of Black Commission, you are giving somebody water in line. You are influencing their vote, we will arrest you. These things are already this this bill already got passed in the state. This is already law in the state of Florida.
Wow.
And so there are three major key cities in the state that are having municipal elections. There are a lot of municipal elections that are going on this year in the state of Florida. But three key cities that we're taking a look at as far as Black Voters Matter is Orlando, St. Pete, and Miami.
Why so?
Um, so the reason being is because those three have a very high black concentration, and those three are going to be three key important municipal elections that are going to be going on in the state of Florida this year since this bill has passed. So now we have to educate our partners within those areas. We have to educate other organizations. We have to even educate the voters in those areas around, hey, so before y'all go and vote, remember this is law and these are the things that you can and can't do. Um, So those three cities are pretty much being used as like the guinea pigs, if you will, the test pilots before we get into next year, and then we got to worry about this for the entire state,
Hmm.
because next year we got municipal elections um, across some of the places got municipal elections across the state. Every U.S. House seat is up for reelection. Every state house seat is up for reelection. The governor is up for reelection, and then Senator Marco Rubio's seat is up for reelection. So these are not things that's going to affect. Once we get into next year, this bill is going to affect the entire state, and so now we have to Now we have to think about it in okay, so Orlando, St. Pete, and Miami, they small municipal elections. They having the
Mhm.
mayor of Orlando, mayor of St. Pete, mayor of Miami,
Mhm.
city commission seats. Those are going on. So let's use these cities as test runs for what we eventually gonna have to do around the entire state next year around
Now,
SB 90.
you brought up something that jogged my interest. Now, as far as all these different seats being up, uh, out of any all the organizations that are under your umbrella, has any of them took the time to inform people and prepare people or anything along that line for these different seats that are coming up, as
It's
far as
funny.
educating them on, you know.
Nah, man, like it's funny because I don't know how many times my phone go off and it be some I don't know how many times my phone go off and it be somebody from Jacksonville that's calling me in regards to like any of the partners that we have in Jacksonville. They calling me in regards to, hey, so we gotta start now educating these people on, who's up for election, um, what amendments might be on the ballot next year for election. We got to start registering people to vote now. And there are even parameters thanks to the SB 90 bill. There are even parameters in how third party organizations can register people to vote. It's parameters in that now. So now organizations have to be educated on what they can and can't do even around registering people to vote.
Mhm.
So, but yeah, like Jacksonville be on it. Like Duval County be on it. Like they like I get calls, I get calls, I get emails, I get texts, um, a lot about like yo, like what can we centrally do around making sure that people are educated around these issues, around these candidates, around what we can and can't do in these upcoming elections. And I can appreciate that because there's a momentum that we need to continue to carry using Jacksonville and Duval again as an example, um, due to the work that the partners from Black Voters Matter did, due to the work that Florida Rising did, due to the work that a lot of other organizations that have a home base in Duval County did last year, we were able to flip the entire county.
Mhm.
And so we have to think on that. Like the county was able to be flipped blue just on the presidential level, not down ballot.
Mhm.
So now we have to think on making sure that people understand when we say all voting is local, we mean that.
Mhm.
Like we can't just focus on just the federal. We have to also focus on the state. We
Mhm.
also have to focus on the county. We also
Mhm.
have to focus on the city. We have to focus on everything that's going to, at the very end, put people in key positions that's going to turn around and get us the power we need as black people in this state or even
Yeah,
in our local city.
definitely. Yeah, I would really love to see an organization really inform the people and even the potential candidates or even breeding candidates, educating them on what's required, what these positions entail, and things of that nature, so that you know these things are able to be you know taken care of really effectively.
hmm We
Say
have
that.
we have a lot of organizations outside of just um, particular political parties. There are organizations that are in existence that are looking to train and back. people who want to run for whatever. Like you could just be sitting at home one day and just be like, man, you know what? I don't like how the school board handled, and this is just using as an example because shout out to Duval County Public Schools. I love how y'all handled the mask mandate situation. Like that was beautiful. But you could just be sitting at home one day and just be like, you know what, I don't like how Duval County handled that mask mandate um, situation. But I don't want to talk about it. I want to be about it. I actually want to create some change. And so you could decide that you want to run for the school board. It's organizations out here. Run for something is one of them. Um, Young American Leaders is another one. But it's organizations out here that they're prime. The Collective PAC. Collective PAC is an awesome organization that their one of their missions is to train and support black candidates. Um, but yeah, it's organizations out here that that's their mission. They want to train them, and then we put them out, and then we as the organization helps to support them however we can. You know, even down to the piece of training not just the candidate, but also the people that's going to work on that person's campaign.
Mm-hmm.
Because I mean, we can train the candidate all we want to, but
Mm-hmm.
if you don't have a good campaign team, your campaign's still gonna be trash,
Right.
and you're still gonna lose.
Right.
So, and you can't just get your homeboys, you can't just get your homeboys and your homegirls off the corner.
Mm-hmm.
That's just like, oh yeah, man, we want to support. Cool. If you don't know the ins and outs of campaign work, you my homeboy and you can support all you want to. I'ma still lose, and
Right.
we gonna be sitting here trying to figure out why I just lost.
Right.
But if you decide, hey, that's something I want to run for, and then the homies is like, hey, you know what? You know what I'm saying? Like, how can we help out? How can we support? Um, well, this particular organization got a campaign training school that can train y'all on how to run a campaign. Y'all all figure out what y'all good at. You know, somebody on the team might be good at social media.
Mm-hmm.
Somebody on the team might be good at writing papers, which that can be translated into writing press releases. Somebody on the team might be good at going door to door talking to people, so that person can be um, the field organizer. Somebody on the team can be good at, you know, we all got one of them homies that's good at delegating,
Mm-hmm.
delegating responsibilities to people, but also know how to, whatever it is I'm delegating to you, I know how to do it myself if you decide that you don't want to do it. That
Right.
person can be the campaign manager.
Mm-hmm.
So everybody know what they're good at. Let's go get trained on it to be good at it for your campaign, and then we go run this campaign, and we get these W's.
Mm-hmm.
So that way you can be a part of the school board in your local area. And when they start talking this trash about um, we don't want critical race theory taught in our schools, which is nonsense because critical race theory is literally a law school course. It's a law school course. So, but what they really mean when they say they don't want critical race theory taught in the schools is we don't want for our kids to have that conversation about the history of racism attached to this country. We don't want our kids having that conversation. But if you on the school board, now you have influence over, hey, well, you know what? Maybe it's time for us to have that conversation. And now you have a say so about it because you on the school board and you got to vote.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So, um, yeah, it's just a lot of it's a lot of moving pieces. It's a lot of moving pieces to this. And when people tell you, and when y'all out and about, canvassing, having these conversations with people in communities, and these people tell you like, "Yo, man, like I don't care none about voting because I feel like that these people gonna choose who they want in office anyway." Okay, cool, bro. Um, I understand what you're saying. I dig it. I dig it because I used to feel the same way. But then I started to understand that it's not even so much about just who the president is. I got to know who my local state representative is. I got to know who my local state senator is. I got to know who the mayor is. I got to know who the people are that sit on my city council. I got to know who the people are that sit on my school board. You know, if I got kids, I got to know who sit on my county school board, so that way I know who to go talk to in my local district for the school board when they ain't treating my child right at his school. So yeah.
Tell us why you think grassroots organizations are so important.
Grassroots organizing is important because those are the people that's literally on the ground. Those are the people that's literally doing those are the people that's literally doing the real work. And all of us started out somewhere. Um, the people that you see on television all the time, your Latasha Browns, um, of Black Voters Matter. Shout out to Latasha Brown and Cliff Albright. They're the ones who signed the checks. Hey y'all. Um, your Latasha Browns, your Cliff Albrights, Tamika Mallory's. These people started somewhere. They had to start somewhere, and they started on the ground. And even if you don't get to that prominence of being on CNN or MSNBC every night, um, that doesn't matter because the real purpose of all of this is to be in touch with the people and in touch with what the real issues are. And so I think that's the key piece of grassroots organizing is having going back to what I said before. The most important work that needs to be done in the black community is returning to relational organizing. Um, Grassroots organizing used to really be about doing the work and I don't look for nothing in return. You know, um, and I think that's what makes a key piece of grassroots organizing, being able to do that work and the reward that you get out of it is seeing something change within your community. Um, Seeing a person's outlook change about wanting to get involved in their community and wanting to study up on how to get more involved in their community. So I think that's like the really important piece of why grassroots organizing is so important in our community, in the black community.
Yeah, getting to that level with Tamika Mallory's and things, people that you speak of, like they 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 were doing these things at the bottom, and they used those different skills, those networking skills, and things of that nature. And even like you're speaking on, the friends coming together for a campaign. It's educating yourself, knowing where you're strong at, and really pushing those practices and understandings towards making something really effective for your community.
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely.
Jamil, I'm not sure if you know, but the Black Commission we were having a We're One Summit. We were discussing education, mental health, financial literacy, environmental awareness. It's a free event. Going to be giving out continental breakfast. It'll be September the 25th between 8 and 4, and the address is 2046 North Pearl Street in Jacksonville, Florida. We'd love to see you there.
Absolutely. Yeah. Nah, like y'all giving me, cause that's the other thing. My mom and my stepdad and my two sisters, they live in Jacksonville, Florida. So anytime any of the partners call me to come to an event in Jacksonville, y'all just giving me an excuse to come see my family. But at the same time, come kick it with y'all. So yeah, absolutely, I'd be thrilled.
Definitely. Yeah, we really our main goal and main focus is just the education, getting the information out there. And this event right here, it'll be an excellent opportunity to bring us all up to speed and to learn from one another.
Yeah, the dope idea. Shout out to everybody over at the Black Commission that does the work, that really does the work, and who really puts it down for Duval. Um, and I'm honored that we were able to be one of the partners that's involved in helping to make the event happen. So yeah, 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 definitely.
Mel, I really, really, really appreciate you taking time out of your life, your schedule, just pouring into the people. I pray that there's something that somebody can take out of this conversation, really go out and do well for themselves and others. Is there anything, any empowering thought that you want to leave with people?
Um, Black people stop thinking that the word power is an ugly and negative word. Um, it's only ugly or negative if we don't have love attached to it. Power without love is what gets us these awful pieces of legislation like HB1 and SB90. Um, Love without power, though, is what gets us these sentimental gestures such as, well, we won't pass these voting rights bills, but we'll give you Juneteenth as a national holiday.
Right.
But when you combine love and power
Hmm.
together, um, it gets us stuff like the 1964 Civil Rights Bill, the 1965 Voting Rights Act. Um, it gets us LA and New York wanting to reallocate funds from their police department into other areas of their city budgets that'll benefit black and brown people in communities across the state and across the country. So, black power, I'm gonna continue screaming black power until it's actually a thing, because whether people recognize it or realize it or not, black power benefits all people.
Sure, sure. The ability, the ability to not only be fed fish, but to be able to fish for yourself. It helps the whole economic structure of the globe. You
Absolutely.
know, keeping your foot on somebody's neck, and you know what I mean, and just not taking the time to pour into people. That it hurts you because you're exhausting your effort, and then it's another problem picking pride at.
Yep.
Mel, once again, I really appreciate coming on to Black Commission Sharing Space podcast, and we look to see you and really do some more work, continue our relationship.
Thank y'all. Thank y'all for the opportunity. This was dope. Thank y'all so much.
All right, thank everybody for tuning in. Peace.